Don't worry. I'll take care of inheriting my father-in-law's $3 million fortune and all the apartments," she said with a confident smile. The joy she felt, looking at the portrait of our late father, was palpable. She's a horrible woman. I'm prepared to wait quietly until the truth is revealed. I refuse to let someone like her take away my father's assets. My name is Lucy. I'm a 45-year-old single woman. Hey, Lucy, can you do the final check on the blueprints for tomorrow's delivery? Of course, Dad. I'll help you out. Upon my father's request, I began the final check for the delivery. I work in my father's architectural firm, serving both as an office worker and an architect. Ever since I was a child, I've been interested in my father's job and aspired to be an architect like him someday. I studied architecture and design in high school and college. And after graduation, I immediately started working in my father's office. He sees me as his successor, and the employees rely on me. My brother, who's 5 years older, chose another path and has no interest in design. So he doesn't work with us. I don't expect him to get involved in the business in the future. So there shouldn't be any disputes over succession. Though our company is small with about 15 employees, it's a precious legacy passed down from my grandfather to my father. I always wanted to continue to maintain this company with great care. Dad, I've finished my tasks for the day. I'm heading home to prepare dinner. Thank you, Lucy. Good work today. Except for emergencies, my father often tells his employees to go home on time. By 6 p.m., almost everyone had left, and only my father and I remained. He always says, boss should work hard, and would work late, tidying up the office. I've always been impressed by his dedication. But he's now 75. He's no longer young and doesn't need to work so hard, I believe. When I get home, the lights are off. My mother passed away in an accident when I was in my 20s. So since then, it's just been my father and me. While I was about to start dinner preparations, the door slammed open with a loud noise. "Oh, you're home, Lucy." It was Diane, my brother's wife. I had no idea why she was here at this time. "What brings you here so late?" "I'm here for your father, not you." I've always felt that Diane was cold towards me, and to be honest, I never really liked her. It seems she has disliked me since she married my brother. Always lazing around, being single. You rely too much on your dad. What are you planning to do when you get old? Don't count on us. That was her regular cliche. I've been earning my own living and have no intentions of relying on my brother and his wife in my old age. Although I knew arguing against her words was futile, I still tried. No matter how much I explained, she just continued her verbal onslaught. "You work at your dad's company, right? Can you really say you don't rely on him? No one knows what the future holds. You should start saving now." She continued her aggressive stance towards me. I felt that there was no point in having a dialogue with someone who harbored hostility against me. So I tried to avoid contact with Diane as much as possible from then on. My elder brother and his wife married after they turned 40, and they didn't have any children. For some reason, however, Diane sometimes poisons me, saying, "It's a nuisance to society that we can't have children." If she said that, then what about Diane herself? I thought that, but it was somewhat taboo. Because my brother had once told me, Diane had an illness in the past and can't have children. Please, don't bring up the topic of kids. From Diane's perspective, she wanted children, but couldn't have them. So she probably didn't want to be lumped together with those who could, but chose not to. Lately, I've been wondering why my brother married her. It's so frustrating. So, when is your father coming back? He said he'll be late today. He plans to stop by the apartment before coming home. That apartment. I see. Diane smirked. My father is renovating an apartment which had been the one my grandfather had handed down to him. Although he no longer owns it, my father still cherishes that apartment, saying, "It's something I received from my parents, so he occasionally visits for inspections. He also does cleaning and weeding, which should ideally be done by a management company. And the residents are grateful for that." Upon learning my father would be late, Diane quickly prepared to leave. What could she be up to? "Make sure you tell your father I was here. Promise," she instructed me, looked around the house, and left in a hurry. That's how it was. Diane just suddenly appeared. I wonder what she wanted. I don't know. She's been here when I'm home alone. But she just relaxes and doesn't do anything special. It was really good that I wasn't home. Saying that, my father looked puzzled. Both my father and I were mystified about her intentions. She might be eccentric, and maybe her thoughts go beyond common understanding. I thought it might be best not to dwell on it. "Thank you, Lucy. Tonight's dinner was delicious." "What's gotten into you? You're acting strange," I said jokingly, and my father smiled shyly. "You've grown up. I've been thinking maybe I could retire soon." "Dad, what are you saying? There's still so much I need to learn from you." "Is that so? Well, I'm going to take a bath and head to bed. Good night." "Yeah, good night." My father fell a week later. I was informed by a call from an employee while I was in a client meeting. "Lucy, it's urgent. The president has." My father was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, unconscious. I quickly wrapped up my work and headed to the hospital, and immediately contacted my brother. After that, I called Diane. My brother said he would come to the hospital quickly. Meanwhile, Diane. "Why me? You are there, right?" "Yeah." I was shocked to hear such a comment when my father was on the brink of life and death. But arguing now would be pointless. I tried to think of how to handle it as an adult, and pleaded for them to come. "Father doesn't have much time left. Won't you visit him just once?" "Diane, you had come to our house before, concerned about my father, hadn't you?" Then, unexpected words came back to me. "Oh, I was just thinking at the time that maybe I could get in with him and get a little insight into his heritage." Diane said this without showing any sign of remorse. I was taken aback. Actually, I hate hospitals. Plus, if there were a funeral, I'd have to do my hair and nails. I just don't have the time to go to the hospital. Diane seemed almost excited. This woman is out of control. "Then, never mind," I said, raising my voice in anger. If my anger reached Diane at all, she should feel remorseful. But the response was unexpected. "Let me know when the funeral is. I'm busy too." These one-sided words amplified my hatred for Diane more and more. It wasn't just that she was an unpleasant person. The reality that she and I were sisters-in-law was particularly painful. And only 2 hours after that call, my father passed away, closing his 75-year-long life. We immediately arranged for the wake and funeral. There was hardly any time for the family to grieve. But my brother seemed strangely indifferent to his role as the chief mourner. "Hey, Lucy, did Dad have any chronic illnesses? He passed away so suddenly." "What does the chief mourner do? Do you know the details?" Do I have to give a speech? I don't want to." How can a 50-year-old man not know such basics? I was furious at my irresponsible brother, but the bigger problem was Diane. Why should I, as the wife of the eldest son, have to step forward? "I don't want to do that." "You can do it," she complained, immediately disappearing to the back. I was swamped with tasks, from greeting those who attended the funeral. detailed meetings with the funeral service, and work-related communications. It was all too much to handle. I can understand not wanting to deal with it because it's not our parents. But this attitude was just too much. The sadness overwhelmed my anger. Come on, Diane is busy. Lucy, please help her. Do you understand just how awful the things your wife said are? I was about to say that, but I felt it was useless to say such things to my brother, who had no intention of changing anything. I decided to keep my distance from my brother and his wife to fulfill my own responsibilities properly. With the help of relatives, we managed to get through the funeral successfully. During the memorial on the 7th day after the death, when the relatives gathered again and were sharing drinks, your father passed away peacefully without suffering. He must have been happy. The one who spoke to me was my aunt, my father's younger sister by 15 years, now 60. To me, my aunt was a precious figure, always ready to listen, almost like a sister. While discussing memories of my father with my aunt, Diane suddenly appeared in front of me, creating a tense atmosphere. She had an aura that, if this were a drama, would immediately identify her as the villain. Let's get to the point, shall we? Yeah, what are you talking about? I was utterly confused by what she meant. It's about inheritance. As you know, my husband is the eldest son here. So he'll inherit $3 million in cash and that apartment. I saw the passbook the other day. I was taken aback to hear about the inheritance, and my aunt and I exchanged shocked glances. We had kept the passbook locked away securely, so I had no idea how she had seen it. Both my aunt and I were at a loss for words. Diane, seemingly taking charge of the situation, continued to address me. Aren't you content with the company and this family home? What more could you possibly want? It's not like that, it's... Before I started to explain, she continued speaking over me. Meanwhile, my brother showed no interest in the conversation and was just drinking and spacing out. Maybe we should consider raising the rent for that apartment. That way, we'd have more income and live more comfortably. Once we save up a decent amount, maybe we could even rebuild it. Your father really left us something amazing. The room fell silent at her words, only to be broken by a relative who couldn't contain their laughter any longer. Once one person began to laugh, it spread, and soon many were chuckling. My aunt whispered to me, "Is she joking? And if you have something to say it to my face." Diane, seemingly irritated, crossed her arms and leaned back, staring at my aunt. Both my aunt and I could only respond with wry smiles. Taking a deep breath, I decided to explain the situation in detail. Diane, the truth is, my brother isn't inheriting anything. What? What are you talking about? Are you lying because you don't want to give it to me? Diane, who had been excited moments before, now looked furious. No, that's not it. The apartment went to my aunt, and I'll be taking over the company. The gifts were given when my father was still alive, so there's nothing left for my brother? What? I've never heard of this. This can't be possible. It made sense that Diane wouldn't know, because this all happened before she and my brother got married. Here's the deal. Our father had always wanted me, who had worked in his company for a long time, to take over. I had declined several times, feeling the responsibility was too great. But he insisted, being very particular about keeping the business in the family. So I eventually agreed, and with the help of a lawyer, we finalized the inheritance. Regarding the apartment, it was already gifted to my aunt and her husband while my father was alive. This was related to my grandfather's inheritance, and an agreement was reached beforehand. As for the company, all the necessary arrangements have been made. My brother has already agreed that I will take over. Lastly, about this family home, the deed has already been transferred to my name. So, as of now, there's nothing left for my brother." After my detailed explanation, my brother, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Oh, I remember when my dad told me about the lifetime gift. And I had received a lot of money. I see, that's how it happened. I suddenly received a large sum of money, so I spent it as I pleased. Ha ha." My brother, when he was single, enjoyed a luxurious life. He wore high-end brand items, went on overseas trips more than 3 times a year. And I remember him changing cars multiple times. Okay, my aunt got the apartment. I thought for sure I was going to get it. I am sure my brother told Diane something vague like that, without even understanding the meaning of lifetime gift. My brother got only the money and spent several $1,000,000 without any plan. I couldn't help but realize that those extravagant actions of my brother were due to this. But what about that passbook with $3 million on it? That's an old passbook of the company. It's no longer in use. But how did you check it when it should have been stored in the safe? About that, I couldn't help but wonder how she managed to open the old safe. I was amazed by Diane's skills in this regard. The aunt looked at Diane with a puzzled expression. Amidst this, my brother suddenly said, "Did Dad not like me?" What? I was taken aback by my brother's nonsensical words, because I felt like only Lucy was being treated specially. I don't have money now. Lucy was told she would inherit both the house and the company. When my brother said this, the aunt stood up angrily. Don't you remember that you're an adult? Do you understand how hard Lucy has worked to take over the company? Auntie, it's okay. The aunt, who knew about my efforts and struggles, understood that I didn't decide to take over the company lightly. That's why she was on my side. Your pennilessness is the result of your wasteful spending. It is because of your wasteful spending. I remembered my father lamenting about my brother's extravagant habits. Or maybe it was a mistake to let him inherit cash. If he continues to live such a reckless life, I feel he might turn out to be a useless person. I felt the same way as my father. And as father predicted, within just a few years, my brother squandered all the money he was given. The fact that he left nothing but money might have been the last gift from your father. One's life should be spent working hard with sincerity and enjoying luxuries with the money one earns. Maybe it's a message like that. My brother could only nod in silence to the aunt's words. Meanwhile, Diane seemed relentless, showing a mixture of surprise and anger. I didn't know about this. Why didn't you tell me? I can't believe the apartment went to her. Even if you say that, the lifetime gift happened before you joined our family. So you had no chance to know about it. As the wife of the eldest son, it's unbelievable that I didn't know anything. My father-in-law didn't tell me anything. This is wrong. Seeing this chaos, it seemed that indeed my father had not told Diane anything about the inheritance. But I felt I somewhat understood why my father didn't tell Diane anything. Maybe, from the beginning, my father had seen through Diane's true nature. She is too obsessed with money. I'm not mistaken. It's all according to my father's will. At my words, Diane responded with a voice trembling in anger. Do you expect me to just stay silent? I'll take this to court, you know. But you weren't an heir from the beginning. Even if you try to reclaim it in court, I think it would be impossible, you know. Upon hearing my words, it seemed Diane couldn't hold back anymore. And she suddenly became violent. She broke my mother's heirloom vase, slammed a glass onto the table, and continued to scream words I couldn't understand. The gathering, which was meant to reminisce about my father, turned into a huge commotion. With the help of my brother and other relatives, The situation was somehow brought under control, and the gathering was dismissed. Diane, I will demand compensation for the broken vase and glass. Remember what you did, ruining our father's house. Shut up, you money grubber. Afterward, Diane forcefully took my brother and left our family home. The term money grubber is what I would have liked to say to Diane. That day, I painfully realized how much money can change a person. Later on, my brother and Diane decided to divorce and lead separate lives. Surprisingly, it was my normally indecisive brother who brought up the divorce. I was genuinely scared by Diane's obsession with money. I felt it was impossible to continue our relationship. My brother said with a pale face that he no longer had the money he had received from the lifetime gift. But if it had remained, what trouble would have awaited him? Diane had been a housewife, and she was terribly afraid of the financial instability divorce might bring. But a shocking truth was revealed. Actually, she was caught in a marriage scam before she married me. So, using that as a reason, I had a lawyer intervene and demand a divorce. She easily agreed. Hearing this confession, my eyes widened. However, considering Diane's obsession with money, it was no surprise she had such troubles in the past. Still, I felt relieved that my brother's relationship with such a person had ended. I can't believe he lived with someone like her, and I realized he lacks a discerning judgment. As his sister, I'm genuinely concerned for him. Boss, a customer is here. I stood up, but I'm still not used to being called boss. You don't have to formally call me boss. There was something embarrassing about being called by that title. However, I have a duty to protect this company and its employees. There's no change in you being the boss. Boss Lucy, it'd be nice if you raise our salaries, another employee jokes. Oh, you all are so funny. But being seen as the boss by my employees is something I cherish. Father, I promise to protect this company. With that strong vow in my heart, I handed a business card labeled CEO to the customer.